Qingguang presides over the entry gate to DU, serving as objective intake triage. The soul arrives escorted by He and by Wuchang. Pangguan opens the ledger, checks aliases used, notable dates, and ties. The central instrument is the karma mirror, a surface that projects recurring deeds with an emphasis on patterns, not isolated episodes. Its role is to organize, classify severity, map relationships with victims and beneficiaries, and sort cases into minor, moderate, and severe. Regional variations describe the mirror as a Buddhist relic or a Taoist instrument. In both, its character is evidentiary and immediate. Qingguang's dispatch is administrative. It creates processing queues and routes to specific courts. Lies and slander descend to Qujiang. Violence and profanation proceed to Songdi. Corruption and broken oaths await Wuguan. There is no rhetoric, only protocol. The escort's countersignature, a timestamp, and a route. In temples across China and Southeast Asia, didactic panels portray this triage as community moral education. Once verification is complete, the soul departs with a defined destination for the start of punishments and confessions.
If this is making sense to you, subscribe now and comment what you think. That tells me to keep going, and it makes sure you get the next ones without missing them.
Qujiang oversees initial penalties and confession for lies, slander, petty fraud, and reputation manipulation. The method is inventory-based. Public and private statements are confronted with evidence from the mirror of karma. Nutou and Mamien act as wardens or enforcers, presenting exhibits, such as rumors attributed to third parties, truncated messages, and calculated silences. Penalties combine controlled discomfort with formal exposure of the harm. Chains symbolize false bonds, ankle weights represent half-truths, ritual gags mark malicious rumor. Sincere confession reduces recurrence and speeds passage. The court distinguishes habit from accident by frequency and social reach. At the end, Qujiang issues a partial clearance ledger, items cleared by confession and possible repair, items left open due to omission and willful intent. Cases involving force, desecration of the dead, or temples are sent directly to Songdi, where the inventory becomes exemplary and pedagogical.
Songdi adjudicates violence and desecration. The space functions as a symbolic forensic workshop. Grinders, saws, and furnaces represent the reweaving of the social fabric torn by homicide, assaults, sacrilegious insult, and the violation of graves or temples. Yakshas and Rakshasas serve as bailiffs, ensuring orderly execution and presenting the victims as rights-bearing subjects. The right shifts the perspective. Each act is reviewed from the vantage point of the one who suffered. Lost time, prolonged fear, communal harm. Exemplary penalties here mean a pedagogical demonstration that violence yields no net benefit. Regional records show diagrams linking body parts to types of harm: hands, desecration; mouth, sacrilegious insult; feet, invasion. Cases driven by collective motivation, public incitement, or cascade effects receive special marking for evaluation in the Sixth Court. In conclusion, the magistrate declares consolidated harms and impossible restitutions, thereby fixing the deadlines. Those who coupled violence with abuse of authority also proceed to Wuguan. The others head to the reevaluation axis under Yanloa. The next door creaks as a warning of the escalating scale of judgment. Wuguan deals with corruption, bribery, abuse of power, and the breaking of oaths. Public square with torn banners, betrayed promises laid out in plain view. The penalty emphasizes exposure and the dismantling of privilege, removal of titles, neutralization of status symbols, return of insignia to the repository. It is not gratuitous humiliation, but a repair of trust. The offender remains facing the square until their conduct stabilizes. In urban settings, oath lists function as civic contracts, In rural areas, accountability takes place before the community temple. Betrayals that fueled violence or disorder are referred to the Sixth Court. Corruption with broad reach receives an additional assessment of scale. Once the dismantling is complete, the case proceeds to Yan Loa, who recalibrates the measures within the broader framework, preparing the passage towards social order, merit, and the sentence of rebirth.
Yan Luo conducts the Great Intermediate Judgment. Earlier decisions are reviewed to correct excesses, consolidate sentences, and set extended stays in the 18 hells. The court admits technical appeals, new verifiable facts, evidence of sustained change, abandonment of circular justifications. Buddhist and Taoist insignia appear side by side, signaling a balance between law and compassion. In diaspora communities, panels of this court serve as moral education, reminding that a long sentence is a road with exits, not a pit. Upon conclusion, Yan Luo defines specific tracks: heat, cold, ascent, repetition, relative durations, and conditions for release. Cases with broad social impact are flagged to Biancheng. Acts with a possible surplus of merit proceed with a note to Taishan. Yan Luo's ruling structures the second half of the path toward merit adjustment and the final sentence. Biancheng adjudicates crimes against the social order, conspiracies, unjustified uprisings, wars of interest, and sustained incitement. The analysis employs maps and timelines. It traces how the decisions of a few generated circles of harm among many, reaching neighbors and generations. Punishments are cyclical, paths that repeat deceptive proclamation, siege, rupture, and void, forcing the offender to pass through the very mechanism they ignited. There is no audience for applause. There is a historical record with chroniclers, so that future communities recognize patterns and avoid romanticization. Regions with a memory of conflict use torch rituals, lighting and extinguishing, to symbolize authorship and responsibility. In the end, Biancheng sets commitments: acknowledge harm, cease incendiary narrative, and support civil reconstruction. Proceedings with parallel merit go to Taishan with conditional credit. Schemes fueled by corrupt privilege maintain a residual bond with Wuguan.
Actions that reduced suffering are measured, saving lives, protecting the vulnerable, sharing scarce resources, preventing imminent harm. The method does not trade crime for kindness, it redistributes the weight of the remaining journey. Records include direct testimonies, chains of benefit, those who were helped went on to help others, and invisible impacts such as curbing panic. Temples display panels of best practices. Accidental merits count less than deliberate actions. Discreet conduct, without seeking glory, carries greater weight. Taishan issues a technical opinion. It removes redundant loops, opens legitimate shortcuts, and sets specific monitoring to prevent relapses. If the balance is still heavy, rigor is maintained. If it is even, the case qualifies for final dispatch. Reports from this court accompany the soul to Juanlun, serving as the last accounting review. The hall displays the disk of the 6 realms: devas, asuras, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hells, each sector associated with lessons and conditions. Beside it, Meng Po offers the soup of forgetting, a ritual that erases explicit memories while preserving cultivated dispositions. The process does not end justice, it turns it into a path. Crossing the bridge marks entry into the new cycle. The disc resumes its continuous spin, and DU returns to readiness for a new round of sorting. This court is understood as reintegration. The accumulated learning returns to the world in the form of tendencies, opportunities, and responsibilities, completing the circuit of cause and effect without interrupting the possibility of transformation across successive lives.